Look, there has been a lot. It's undeniable. There's been a lot of change, aside from triggering the biggest mass protest movement that we've seen, really, in over half a century. You have to go back to the civil rights movement to see anything on a scale like this, not just on the streets of American cities, but really across the world. A sort of triggering of a heightened awareness about basic racial disparities and inequities. And in police departments across the country, not all of them by a long shot, you have begun to see reforms against certain types of maneuvers that are seen as excessive, especially chokeholds, certain maneuvers which take away some of the glean of deference to police, where you've had a culture in America where juries and lawyers often defer to the police. The police have often been sort of endowed with almost superpowers when it comes to facing justice. There is a sense that that is beginning to change, but at the same time, Stuart, alongside those changes, we heard, Biden talking about, a fact that this is a step forward. However, it's really treating a symptom and not in the view of many the broader disease. And the broader disease is a deeply embedded racist culture in America, which a lot of people still are highly reluctant to acknowledge and to address. But you've also had a backlash on another level in Republican state houses, legislatures across the country. In the very same time that we are seeing the George Floyd Black Lives Matter movement gaining prominence and gaining a heightened awareness, you're also seeing heightened measures to restrict voting rights, to roll back the ability, especially affecting minorities, to vote in America. More laws aimed essentially effectively at protecting police. And on the very day the jury began deliberating in the Derek Chauvin trial, Stuart, you had the governor in Florida signing a law which is similar to laws being pushed in other states, which essentially would effectively criminalize certain forms of public protest. The Republicans say only protests where there would be a threat to public property or the potential harm of people. But critics say that it's clear that this is a blow against the basic human right of protest. And it does take aim at a lot of the minorities, especially who have been protesting in America over the past year.
Doug, that's what has changed, but what hasn't changed?
What hasn't changed is a lot of the deeply embedded problems in American culture. Look, this was not a shooting case. This was not a case in which Derek Chauvin shot George Floyd. He died because of basically asphyxia after being pinned to the ground under Derek Chauvin's knee. But what's amazing here is that almost all of these encounters a lot of them involve Black and Latino civilians when police make these types of arrests, often in routine traffic stops and routine violations of that kind, which escalate quickly into violence and sometimes fatalities, murders. A lot of them are because a suspect's accused of wielding a firearm. That points to the problem of gun violence in America, which still hasn't been root and branch reform addressed. Also, mental health in America. A lot of people, especially in the minority community, who do not have access to the better health care. A lot of the people who die in these fatal shootings suffer from some sort of mental health problems. They're mentally ill. They have had breakdowns in the past, and a lot of it's also domestic abuse, a giant problem in America, which it's not that it's not being addressed, but it is a plague, a scourge in many cases. And a lot of these fatal shootings and violence occur in those types of domestic violence abuse situations with police responding. All of this, it's the tip of the iceberg, Stuart. It all must be addressed. This trial perhaps will put a microscope to America's many deeply embedded socioeconomic problems. Police reform alone won't do it. It's an entire cultural sea change that needs to occur.
Doug, thanks very much. Doug Herbert, our international affairs commentator on France 24.